Welcome to the J.Geiger Studios podcast, where we help you achieve your ideal outcome. We're here to provide value to you and your organization every step of the way. I'm your host and guide on this journey, Jeff Geiger, and I'm happy that you are here with us today. Today in the studios, we have Retta Witter. She is an accomplished senior business analyst, offering 25 years of experience working in different manufacturing systems and at different companies. She's done a lot around the ERP space. Welcome, Retta.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. You have a very strong and diverse skill set. I
do. I ended up getting a bachelor's degree in MIS. So I know all the different, with the business degree, it's a bachelor's in business administration. With my brain just farted. Management Information Systems. Mm-hmm. So it's a bachelor's of business administration.
Out of Oshkosh, right?
MIS, yep, out of Oshkosh. And
we probably graduated about the same time.
I think you got me by like 5 years.
I don't know about that.
When did you graduate?
96?
99, January 99.
Okay. Huh.
Yep.
So you basically went through the same thing I did. Probably had some of the same teachers.
Oh, I bet you we did.
Yeah.
So with that degree, I got to learn all the disciplines in the business space, but I also had a real focus on computers right around the Y2K thing. So we really focused on helping and learning about how the old green screens and the new GUI interfaces and all of that kind of stuff. So I started by implementing.
So you graduated during the whole Y2K thing?
Technically, I graduated January 99 and walked the stage that December.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had an internship a few months that last semester before that doing ERP systems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did you intern?
Pierce.
Oh, you did? Hey, that's where we met.
That is where we met. But you came in January right after I graduated.
Huh. Yeah. Well, I'd like to talk about that when I'm meeting with my guests, like how far back we go, how we met, that kind of thing.
Yes, because
I think you actually nudged out Adam. I had to have met you before I met Adam.
I don't know. What I do know.
I didn't meet him until July of 99.
Yep, and you would have been right around January timeframe.
Yeah.
Because I was only
you were there working with Diane.
I did. She mentored me.
She did, yeah.
I brought the donuts on Wednesdays.
That was part of her mentorship? She required that?
Yes, there's a bagel place on the east side of town I'd have to hit.
I totally can see that.
And yes, because there were certain people that you worked with, I couldn't get their paperwork done. Drove me nuts.
Ah, interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't mind doing paperwork. I don't know if I was one of them that was a slacker. You were not one of them.
No.
Yeah, well, that goes back quite a bit. 99 was a really interesting year. For me, it was switching from working inside a company, like I was at Kimberly-Clark right out of college. I went there for a couple of years, to working as a consultant. And I was really nervous about that. But as I found out, it's nothing to be nervous about. You just have to be open to the fact that you might go from contract to contract and get exposed to all these things, which I imagine has something to do with your diverse background and why you have such a great skill set.
I think part of it's your personality, because either you can do it or you can't, because you have to make quick connections when you're consulting, right?
Right.
Because if you don't have those quick connections, you're not going to build that relationship and the trust that you need in a team to be successful, right?
I would say most of the time that I'm successful with that. But I've had some times where I remember in the past where I just don't connect with people, and that's okay.
But you aren't always going to. Yeah.
No,
and that's just part of the beauty of how diverse people are.
Sure.
But I think you are correct. Part of that diversity of going from different places, you learn different cultures, you learn different industries. I'm learning a lot in an area that I haven't on the contract I'm on right now, right? But I've never thought I was a girly girl who's like, I don't care about cars. I just put gas in and rotate my tires when I'm told to. But I really don't care about cars, and I'll rotate my tires. And when Steve, my mechanic, says it's time to rotate your tires, you rotate your tires. If you need new brakes, I'm not that. That's not where my enjoyment is. Some people just love it, right? That's just not me. But I'm learning a lot about a lot of different things that I haven't, because it's more of a distribution than it is a manufacturing.
It's auto parts primarily, right?
Mostly tires. 99% of it is tires. There's a lot of rules and laws around tires, especially taxes.
It's a safety issue. Well,
but the taxes because of the rubber, right? When you think about environmental type stuff, right?
Sure.
But so there's that kind of stuff. But what I also find is I've started out on the technical side, right? Where I was between the technical people and
Sure.
the business analysts as a system admin, right? More the system
And
side.
you had to be kind of an interpreter then.
A lot.
A
And that's what I
technical to
do.
business interpreter.
And that's what I do today, but I do a lot more business to technical.
I see.
And there I did a lot less of that, if that makes sense.
Sure.
But I still had to, there's a lot of rules and regulations
Sure.
that you have to follow, depending on every industry has them. It's just part of the industries.
Well, thinking back to the projects that we've worked on together, it's been a lot of them over the years. You're probably one of them that I've worked on or been in the same circles for the longest time. We had the first where we met, Pierce, and then we had the implementation at Appleton Coded, which in between there was Generac.
Portable products, not
Yep,
the regular
not the
generic.
big one,
There's
right.
two, yep.
See, those two companies, they've moved on. Like Appleton Coded
they
doesn't
don't exist the same
anymore.
way.
Right. Generac got bought out.
Briggs and Stratton.
Yeah, Briggs and Stratton bought them. But we were on those projects together. And then Plexus, we did some work there. They're still
Did you work on any of the
firing
county
very
projects?
strong. What's that?
Did you work on any of the
Outagamie
counties?
County?
I was on that one.
Yep.
Washington County?
Nope.
VisPac or
Nope.
whatever. It's in Stevens Point. I implemented a Citrix environment there.
Interesting. So that gets to kind of the breadth of your background, which I'm really impressed with. Like I've seen you do like system administration within the J.D. Edwards environment. And anybody who's a J.D. Edwards person will know that's like CNC. You did that at a couple different places. You helped set up and run a help desk, which is, it takes some guts to do that when you're starting, because it was pretty much from scratch.
It was from scratch, and everything they did at that place was mainframe based. So even teaching them how to use email, the help desk was so busy because they weren't used to the mouse. They weren't used to the email concept because everything was done inside of their AS400, right? So the mail concept was all different.
Wow.
Yep.
I forgot about all that, that they were making that kind of a quantum leap, that they had people that didn't even know how to use a mouse.
No, yep.
And you've done some project management along the way. EDI is a big thing.
Lots of years of EDI.
Yep. And then you've been really working to sharpen your skills on a business analyst perspective. You've got certified and you haven't gotten your certification. You're working on it.
It's on my to-do list.
Okay. Yeah, you're like running the whole organization, the IIBA. Well, okay, so anybody's listening, that's not true. But Retta is very involved with the IIBA, which is, what does it stand for?
International Institute of Business Analysis.
Right. And you're involved with what chapter again?
The Bluegrass chapter out of Lexington.
Yep.
I'm the VP of Professional Development, and one of my goals and objectives for that is to really get the younger members involved. They had a really good program in place for getting amazing speakers and getting all of that set up. The area that I saw a need that I thought I could help with was the younger generation, because a lot of our members, I don't want to say are aging out, but they're retiring and choosing to go on to the next phase in their life.
And they don't want to go to IIBA events anymore, I suppose. They probably want to see their grandkids and do whatever.
Right.
Travel.
And so bringing up some of that younger generation, especially knowing how versatile that skill is, you don't have to be in IT. I see so much of this skill set needed in the business themselves so they understand the impact that they're having to other parts of the business.
Sure.
Or help diagnose other parts of the business causing them grief.
Not every company embraces that.
No, they don't.
Yep. That's not very common that companies embrace that. Yes. But so you don't have your certification yet. Nope. It's on your bucket list to get done.
Yep.
And that journey of you, but I mean, you're very skilled in it, and you're very versed in it.
I've taken the class that the Bluegrass chapter hosts, which is a phenomenal 14-week class. They've got tests, right, to prepare you. They had a really neat program. Like one of the last days, they actually brought someone who got certified for that you were looking to test, talk about the different testing techniques, what they liked, what they didn't, what they struggled with, what they would have done differently. So it was a really interesting one-on-one or two-on-one type personal conversation you could have. And it really I'm not a great test taker, which is why I'm avoiding doing it. I'm going to be honest. I know the stuff. I just hate taking tests. Is like,
sure.
I would rather.
I didn't know that.
Oh, I hate tests.
I didn't know that.
I'm dyslexic. So I translate. It takes a long time for me to read it properly.
Sure.
So with that, time tests that you got 15 questions that you have to go through or whatever it turns
Right.
out to be. And a lot of them are read a process and then you've got the next couple questions based off of what you read in that first part. And it's like, okay, you have to make sure you really fully understand it. With dyslexia, you have to really be focused. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll encourage you and help you, support you, whatever you need in order to take it.
I
you know I'm here for that.
I do
Okay.
know that.
Yeah, and I was thinking while you were telling me about that, how we actually did a prep video and back would have been 21 maybe or 20, where you were involved with the IABA and you were going through the process of
a certification chat.
Right.
We still have it out there.
Oh, yep. It is still out on YouTube.
Yep.
But we had some people participate through the IABA because they want to learn more about how to get their certification and whatnot.
And the benefits of the different types of certifications. So
Right.
there's like 3 main ones.
Because you want to choose the right one and spend your time on the right thing.
So they've got like 3 main ones. It's beginner, mid, and advanced. That's not really what they're called, but that's
Right.
the basics of it. The higher it is, the more hours of experience you have to have. Then they have ones specifically around like agile and cybersecurity and data analytics. Some key ones that are really up and coming areas, which is pretty neat.
So, you were telling me about and I know the answer to this, but I think our audience would like to know is why the bluegrass chapter?
Oh, so during COVID, or even right around the COVID time when I'm like, okay, what's the next step that I need to do how do I brush up on my skill set? So I started working for you back in...
Was it 4 years ago or 5?
It'll be 5 on April 17th.
Yeah, it's coming up.
15th, something like that. Yeah, it's just under 5 years.
Wow.
So right around that time frame, it's like, okay, I need to make sure I had the skills, but I wanted to formalize and make sure that the way
filling gaps and whatever,
absolutely,
I suppose.
because there's always areas you can improve on, right?
Well, and the IABA basically has an inventory of things, and you got to go through and make sure you've got all your bases covered.
Yes. And then, so with that, what I found is the bluegrass chapter, because they were already in multiple locations, they had figured out how to do
like the remote stuff.
And a lot of organizations didn't have that already in place. So they were
during
fumbling.
COVID, they're struggling quite a bit.
And when I found that organization down in Bluegrass, they had, what I thought was really neat about them is they have like they have monthly meetings, January through April, then May is our annual meeting. We take the summer off, and then we're again through September through December. And December is more of a fun meeting, right? So they do them every month. On top of that, they have about 3 or 4 other events that are like the certification chats or like the BAs on the streets, where you get to learn about how people evolve their career into being a BA, right? Because we've never I don't know anybody who's taken a straight line into exactly what they were going to do, right?
We talked about that on a previous podcast too, about how we have this vision of the path being straight like that, but it's really crooked.
If I could get my 20-year-old son to understand that, I think he
it
might be a little more.
It frustrates people. They think, I'm not living up to the expectations of the world. I'm not living on this straight path, when life just isn't that way.
It is not. And if you have to be on that straight path, I think you'll miss a lot of opportunities.
I've also found that people think about kind of wealth and how they put their life together and how they, choose to, like when they get married, when they have kids, all that kind of stuff. I've found people like to think of those parts of their lives too as a straight line, and a lot of times it's not. And most of the people that I know that have any wealth, they pieced stuff together doing a bunch of different things, not just one thing.
Or even think about how many people you know that either had kids young or had problems being able to have kids, right? Yep. And you never think that's going to be you.
That's right. Or you think, I'm going to wait until the time is exactly right. And then you find
there is no right.
There is no right. And time's just a passing by. So be bold, go do some awesome things in your life out there. And be happy with it not being a straight line, because straight lines are boring sometimes.
So architecturally, I am very geometric, right? I like the straight lines in that part of my life, right? Just like when I hang pictures.
You can order your life, but I guess we're talking about the non-physical parts of your life. They aren't straight lines.
And that's the physical part is the only part that do well with straight lines.
I'm a little OCD about that myself.
Yeah.
So, so the IABA, I've been really impressed with the types of speakers, like all the various topics and the quality of the speakers that they've brought to bear and how consistent they are. I think they're a really professional organization.
We do a lot around what is up and coming. So like, I think in the next couple of weeks, I have our next fall planning for what we're going to have for our topics. So we have a committee, we get together. What are the topics we see that are up and coming? If you were in January's one, I think it was January, we did the AI. Fascinating topic.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
It's on everybody's minds too.
Right? So with that, we plan them out and we try and mix them up so that it's not all agile or not all of this.
And we have the next one coming up next week, I think, and it's emerging technologies. Is that right? No, what was the subject of it? Disruptive technologies.
Yes.
Okay. I guess I interpreted that as kind of emerging, where
it's going to be a really neat conversation. But what we have is that as we're all in different areas. If the one thing that's really neat about the bluegrass chapter is, well, it's a bluegrass Kentucky-based chapter. We have leaders in California, Michigan, Kentucky, Wisconsin, I think. But we've
had participants from all over the world.
We've had a meeting upwards of 14 different countries who are part of it. So yeah.
So we're talking. We had some people from Kuwait, India,
Australia.
Yep. So they're getting Poland, up in the middle of the night. Poland. Wow.
The UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I
a lot of Canadians.
Yep. You betcha. Or that's a Wisconsin thing.
That's a Uber thing.
It is. Well, we were doing a chat at the last meeting, and I think as part of the warm up, just kind of, hey, get to know you, kind of it's the social hour, trying to network virtually, and asking people where they're from. I was amazed seeing and hearing all the places that people are from, and I thought how great that was that we were reaching out from our offices here in, it was one of the co-hosted locations from little old Appleton, Wisconsin. We were projecting video all over the world.
One other thing that I think was really neat too is because the chapter's been around for 10 years, and the leaders that started it and are part of it are so willing to mentor and help other ones. One of the less than fun, but really actually quite a proud moment is helping the Philippines get their chapter up and running, right? We mentored them.
Was that about 2 years ago?
It's about 2 years ago, but they're like 12 hours. So we did our meetings at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, that's gotta be killer.
I don't care to be that awake at 6 o'clock in the morning, that I can have conversations with people but it was really neat to see the mentor get their chapters, because we talked to them how we got things started,
they've been doing it too. They've been following your lead.
They are, and they're doing great. I'm really proud of the meetings that they have and the different topics that they get to have too. And in the IIBA, they have 3 tiers: the tier 1 countries, the tier 2 countries, and the tier 3 countries. So being able to help a tier 3 country start up their IIBA chapter and really help the business analyst community in that was a really proud moment for me.
Right.
Because
and think about the things that they possibly could do. It could help out their local economy. It could help them solve problems. It could be in government. They could be in industry. Could do some really great things.
It's pretty neat to be able to help make people's lives better or give them more opportunities.
Yep. Yeah. And on the IIBA front, you've been quite an advocate of it. And we actually just met with Lawrence University last weekend, and you've met with other colleges and like technical colleges and colleges around the area, trying to evangelize them about the IIBA.
Not even just the IIBA, but it's coming alongside and helping them to understand that there's local resources that are there to help. And so like Fox Valley Tech has a phenomenal business analyst program. I think that if we were able to get them hooked up with the global community, that based on their classes literally have sections listed just like out of the BABAC, that when you graduate, the business analyst body of knowledge, it's the book. Okay. It's the Bible for
it's kind of like the PMBOK for Project Management Institute.
Yep.
So, okay.
Yep. It's called the BABAC, BABOK.
So at Fox Valley Tech, they have classes or sections of classes right out of the book?
I don't know if they're right out of the book, but they're named exactly like the chapters out of the book, right? But so with that, though, the global headquarters for IIBAs in Canada, and they actually have an education one. If you meet their requirement when you graduate with that certificate, you can automatically get your certification, right? So trying to hook up and try and get all that kind of stuff coordinated. That's why UW Oshkosh has a business analyst program that I need to take a look and see does it mimic it enough? Can we get them together with the global so that those who are graduating with that automatically get the ECBA?
And I don't recall that coming up as a topic of conversation with Lawrence when we met.
They do not have the same kind of program.
Okay.
Theirs is a business program, but it's not.
It might be something they can evolve into eventually.
If that's the direction, right? Because they're really focused on entrepreneurial type stuff, where Oshkosh actually has a business analyst, I think, a certificate you can graduate with. The story
on the whole thing is that you want to help the next generation get up and get better. And, we, as business owners, I want a pool of people, qualified people, and I want my customers to be able to hire as well and do better. And with skilled people, that's what helps them do it. Do you think that, because I've kind of noticed that there's maybe not an unwillingness, but maybe a lack of realization of what they have right here. Because we've had a hard time getting people to physically come to participate at our office for those events. Maybe they don't realize what it is, or they don't realize how impactful that could be.
I think part of it is they get spammed just like everyone else does, right? And being able to get connected. Like once we got connected with the College of Business admin people, we're now connected. We're going to reach out. We're going to start mentoring some of the leaders of their clubs so that they can have better meetings, kind of like some of the stuff that you say that the Bluegrass does with the topics and the quality of the speakers and all that kind of stuff, helping them to be able to host meetings like that kind of stuff, even though it's not BA necessarily, but it's helping mentor those leaders into being able to do that.
And I want to throw our hat in the ring to help out with that. Like if they need a space to meet or something like that, I want to help because I want to see those groups come together.
And that's where almost do we host go down to UW Oshkosh, right, and host one of the BA meetings down there, and then have all of the different, because again, business analysis is a skill set. It's not a job title.
Right.
While it is part of my job and a lot of my title, well, technically not for your company, but a lot of company, but it isn't, it's a skill set. And teaching them, you can have a major in finance, but having the ability to analyze the business is a key skill set, no matter who you are and where you do it. I totally
agree. Well, love the passion about it. So what got you started on being a BA? What was your first gig doing that?
So that's where it's interesting, because even when I was a system admin, I did a lot of the skill sets, right? So my husband, who you know, is also in IT. And right around the time
do you guys talk about shop at home?
All the time.
Okay, I wondered about that.
But that's okay, because here's the thing. I have a bad day. I can say terms in IT terms that he will totally get. Yep. We've worked with some of the exact same people. Yep. So when we have a...
oh, it's so-and-so again?
You just can say the name and you're like, oh, yep, I get it. Sorry, honey. Or there's an outage. Having a husband who's in the IT space, he totally gets that I have to take care of that because I need to take care of my people. That's my priority. He's usually really cool about it, but because he has them too. And unfortunately, he's with him being a global manager. Sometimes that's 3 a.m. when we're getting the calls.
That's right. Yep.
Which aren't always fun. But with that, our son was getting older and exploring a little bit more. He was coming to terms and dealing better with some of his autistic tendencies and his autism. So with that, I was working like 2 weekends a month. My husband was working a third weekend a month doing upgrades and that kind of stuff.
A lot of weekends.
Especially since there's only usually about 4 a month.
Right.
It was hard for us to do stuff as a family. So I knew if I was going to be able to help my son explore, I needed to change directions. And with that, I had to step away from J.D. Edwards, because as soon as anybody knew I had that CNC experience, that's such a valuable skill set.
They wanted nights and weekends work because you're doing packages and deploys and upgrades.
Security and And so with that, I had to step away from J.D. Edwards. Fortunately for me.
What year was that roughly? 2008? Or was it not back that far?
Nope, it was after that. I think 10 or 11.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was 10 or 11 because it was after the 2008 recession. Okay. Because I was trying to get out of it at that company and transition away from the CNC space because they had 2. Right. So I'm like, okay, there was 3 of us. I was trying to transition away. One ended up getting let go. And then one or two of them ended up getting let go with the 2008 or leading up to that. Yep. So then they said, honey, we need you to come back. I'm like, no, all right. So I'm back in the CNC world for a couple of years after that. With that, I was able to explore, and I went away from JD Edwards. I went to SAP, and that's where I started doing the EDI stuff. And my broadness of the business background helped.
It was another manufacturing company.
It was in the Valley. Yep. And with that, it was really neat because I was able to still use all of my skills. It was very humbling, because I had been doing the other job for 11, 12 years, right? I knew it.
You think you knew everything? And
I knew that area. I was very comfortable. Okay. Now I'm moving into SAP, which I didn't know. And then EDI, which I knew of and I knew about, but I did not know the way I needed to do this job. So it was a very humbling learning experience for me, which I think was a good growth opportunity, really, to do that. I
think all those painful times are growth opportunities.
Yeah. So we did that, and I did that for 5 years with that company. And I got to work on spinning off a company. I got to run an upgrade of their SAP system, which had like 13 different bolt-ons, and it was really neat. It was just in North America, which I was okay with, because that was the first time running that large of an upgrade. And from the technical perspective, I don't think we had zero critical. We had a couple other bugs that were not critical, so I counted that as a huge success, especially as my first time.
Like critical is drop everything. You got to fix this because data or something's corrupt or some huge part isn't working.
Yep, one of the bolt-ons didn't work the way we thought it should have been, so now this whole integration doesn't work, right? So so to me that was huge. That was pretty awesome. But I loved SAP. It was so
I've
easy to use.
never even looked at it.
Really?
Yep, never.
You never touched it at KC?
Nope.
I've touched it at a couple different locations now.
Back in the day when I was at KC, I was on the sales automation team, and we deployed software out to the laptops, and it was all custom built software by the internal team. I was on the communications team, so I handled. This is back when everything was transferred through flat files and stuff. I wrote the protocols for deploying software to the PCs. Again, this is before we used batch files back then. So I knew how to make Windows 98, Windows 95. I mean, boy, that's really dating. I knew how to make those computers do whatever you wanted them to do, like restart and, inject lines of code into the autoexec.bat. And I mean, it's just all this crazy stuff, these cartwheels we had to do. And then I was one of the first people, in fact, I was the first person at KC, and I was on the early adopting of Install Shield. I don't know if you ever heard of that. It used to be where you'd take a piece of software and install it on your computer, which nowadays you hardly ever install stuff directly on your computer. Everything's in the cloud. But you would see the Install Shield logo come up and run the procedure.
Once you said the shield, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was one of I was really early in that whole process of that being a thing. And we started writing our install things using the Install Shield. But Foxborough, does that sound familiar? So I wrote a parse routine that parsed apart text files, like a 1.5 megabyte files. And that's a pretty big file, 500,000 records, parse it apart, put it into a database on the machine.
So I wrote DOS scripts to go with PowerShell scripts.
So a little bit of overlap there. You know a little bit about the DOS stuff.
To automate stuff. Yep. It was BizTalk's MSI deployment process. I automated it using a job scheduling software and with security in the back end. So the only person who could actually promote the code was the only person authorized. I got a kudos from an auditor on that one.
Yeah, good job.
That was a stretch for me because I don't code.
We could geek out about all that old technology right now. Yes, we could. I have to say I did do a little bit of, I was messing with some of my teammates, and if they'd leave their computer unlocked, I go drop a file on their computer that autoexec.bat would pick up, and it would reset their sound. You remember we used to, I remember setting up your Windows environment and having your screensaver be something, and having every time you move your mouse and click and you make an error, it'd be a different sound than the standard. People don't even do that anymore. Just like ringtones, people don't buy ringtones anymore. But I frustrated some of my team because I knew how to do that, and I made it so that every time they rebooted, it would just put it back to what I put on there.
Oh, what I would do is
no, that's naughty. You shouldn't do that. Probably could have got fired for that one.
You hide all their, you take a screenshot of their background and then hide all their icons, and then you make their
the screensaver
or the background.
Yeah, the background.
So they're trying to click on their background and can't figure out why they can't open some. Yeah,
that is a really good one.
I've done that.
That's almost as good as putting, plastic wrap on the toilet seat. Almost as good.
No.
or putting Jordan? Do you remember me doing this to your mom? I put a rubber band on the sprayer in the kitchen.
My mom used to do that.
Your mom used to do that?
She was such a prankster.
You did that too? You did that to mom? No, you did that to Heidi? Oh, Jordan. Chip off the old block.
The sprayers aren't the same anymore, right?
No, not really. Actually, I think you have to push harder on them now. I couldn't do it with...
Most of them come out of the thing at the top, right?
Yeah.
And go straight down versus the one that shoots out at you. Yeah.
Yeah. Good times. Yeah. I really appreciate how you use, getting back to like what you've been picking up and learning all these years, is you take what you learn and you use it in your day-to-day life. You use it to help, spread the word. And you've done that with us through the Adventurous BA series.
That's fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of time that's gone into that. If people haven't seen the Adventurous BA, go out on YouTube, look up the J. Geiger channel.
My poor husband.
Yeah.
So I've got experiments.
He's a good sport.
He is a good sport. I've got experiments going on all the time. So the last one that I did was on food, 8 days on an island where you can't restock unless you're paying a lot of money. So some background
here is you are a backpacker. Yep. Is that what you would call that? Hiker?
Yep, I'm a hiker. I do small segment through hikes. I don't do the large through hikes that a lot of people will take months to do. But so with that, I'll take a step back even farther. The way the Adventurous BA came up was you asked us all to take turns writing articles for LinkedIn. And everyone else, and I'm not being an ageist, who was doing it is probably about 15 years younger than me and are total code geeks. Can't relate. I can't relate.
Got nothing.
Mine didn't fit in with that. So I didn't feel...
Had to go back to DOS.
PowerShell is a favorite of mine. I still do love that. But I didn't fit in with that kind of stuff. So I had to figure out a way to mark something and do it that I want. Because again, with my dyslexia, reading and writing is not one of my strengths. Never has been, never will be. Yes, I know I can improve it. There's other things I'd rather improve ahead of that. That's what F7 is for and what editors are for, right? Thank you.
Yeah. Jordan's an editor.
But
proofread.
With that, what I found is I created a better product when I attached it to me. And the first one I did was when we changed a hallway, an empty closet into a pantry.
Oh, I remember
built that out, right?
Yep.
And it got such good traction. It's like, okay, so that went well. People were able to relate. They were able to see how you can apply the analysis
business
skills.
Analyst skills to your everyday life.
And so from that came how do I can use my business analyst skills to improve my adventures, or I can use my adventures to improve my business analyst skills. Take your pick.
Right.
It just depends on which side of the lens you're looking through. And so with that, being out in nature is a happy place. It's a place where I de-stress. I really enjoy it. I like the quiet of it. I love photography, so I love landscape photography.
Yeah, you're an outstanding photographer, by the way.
Thank you. So with that, I like doing that kind of stuff. And so I started applying the skill sets using that to some of the hiking. I was about almost 3 years ago now, where I spent a night out in the Newport State Park in the flipping cold, doing a prototyping to see if I could sleep in a hammock and stay warm in Wisconsin weather.
Was it cold?
The first night it was.
You figured it out though?
There was improvements that needed to be made. Yeah, I didn't.
Within the day you were able to
I had
improve?
to.
Yeah. When was your trip after that?
The big one after that was 2 months later.
So you had to be ready for that.
I had to be ready. Yeah. So what I ended up doing was this sounds really stupid, but it's obvious when I really took a step back on why I was cold. So I was cold all night because I was in a hammock and I had a shelter over the top. And those of you know I'm talking with my hands. So those of you who know me, I'm talking with my hands. The shelter. And at the ends, they flap in to close it off.
Right.
You notice how you can flap either way?
Yep.
Yeah, I flapped it the wrong way, so the wind
would come in.
Yes.
Okay.
And then it was just a chute right underneath me because I didn't have my underquilt pulled up high enough, so it created a cold tunnel right under my bum.
Okay.
So I was cold all night long. We have a video on that, which is kind of funny talking about that.
Yep.
So then that next night, I had to pay attention to which way the wind was going, so I had switched it to the right direction. so that it was, because every night it could be different, depends on where the wind's coming from. But I also figured
I imagine that that's something that experienced hiker overnighters know. That they know to flip it the right way.
Or they pay attention to that, right? It's just part of their initial
part of their
setup.
routine.
Yep. Or the wind primarily goes this direction. So while those trees look good and your hammock will fit between them, you don't want to use them.
I see. So you can the way you orient it even.
Totally. It was just a wind tunnel right up my back. I was cold all night. Then I figured out what I was doing wrong, and I cinched up the bottom so that it created more of a cocoon under me, so it stayed warm. It was a warm air pocket, and then of course I had
number 2 was good.
Dramatically better.
And then how did your trip go a couple months later?
It was hot as can be.
So not cold like you were practicing.
No, it was beginning of May, and it was.
So that maybe you did want the wind going through.
Dude, I don't think I wanted. I don't think I even used my quilt for that one.
Okay.
But it was like a record hot day that beginning of May. So none of us were expecting that.
Were you able to use it since then?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We did another hike after that. It was a blast.
One of them I remember you did too is that you were trying to get your pack down to a certain weight.
Yeah.
And so you went. Were you using prototyping for that too, or was it a different?
It was that was minimal viable product. What do I actually
MVP,
have to have
right.
for that? Right. So with that, anybody who knows me, I like my coffee in the morning. Don't talk to me for like the first hour. Right. I'm just kind of, I like my quiet time in the morning. But with that, how do I get, and I'm kind of a coffee snob. I will openly admit I'm a coffee snob. How do I
don't want the instant stuff?
Oh gosh, no. How do I make good coffee while I'm on the trail? Right. But with that too, I don't need, like, one of the guys who's 6'4", 280 pounds, military guy. He can pack way different than I'm 5.
He could pack 100 pounds if he wanted, probably.
He packed a 55 pounder.
Yeah,
and
that's a heavy pack.
That's a heavy pack. And he packed an axe for chopping wood.
Right.
I'm not packing an axe to chop wood. Right. So I have to figure out, how do I do that if I want to fire? Right. Which I'll be doing again in a couple weeks, mid-May, right after Mother's Day. I'll be doing a shakedown hike or another prototyping to see what some of that's like. And the funny thing about that is those hikes are so different than the island hike, because this hike I can have fires on unless there's a fire ban. Isle Royale, you can't. Right. So you have to
use like a cooker.
Yeah, self-contained stove. But I can't, if I'm cold, I can't start a fire.
Right.
Where here, if I'm cold and there isn't a fire ban, I can start a fire because they'll have fire pits for us.
Right. Wow, all these details I never would have known. And some of that comes out in the content of what you show. But really the purpose is that depending on which, you said this before, which way you're looking at it from, are you looking to use your analyst skills to improve your hike, or using your hike experiences and your prep for your hike experiences to improve your analyst skills? It's kind of both ways.
Both are going to happen.
Right.
And that's where, again, and it's just like every ERP, every implementation, every project, my 3 or 4 day hike is different than my 9-day hike, right? Your requirements are different. Your needs are different. The things you have to care about are different. When I'm on a 2 or 3 or 4 day hike here, emergency services are a lot closer. While yes, I do care because I'm a mom and, I care about having a first aid kit and being responsible. That looks different on an island where you have to fly someone in to help you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And I think, you tied it into how projects are and stuff like that. I think it's human nature to simplify things or assume things are super easy or whatever. And, if I was to go in and say, look at hiking, because I'm not a hiker. I mean, I do day hikes and stuff like that for a couple hours at a time. My only experience with that really is a trail somewhere where maybe it's 3 miles, which is nothing.
And my guess is it's more of a blazed trail.
Yeah, it's already blazed, absolutely, with signs and the whole thing, and places, scenic overlooks and stuff. But I did go up to Bayfield once and walked. It was a walk out and walk back kind of a thing, not a circle or anything like that. And there wasn't any water or anything along the way. I didn't bring any water. And Lisa and I, we were so dehydrated by the time we got done. And we didn't feel good. We felt, it was beautiful views and all that. We saw these huge red, like canyon looking things along the Superior Lake shore. Well worth it. But
dehydration impacts a lot of your mental faculties.
We got back. Yeah, we were a little bit disoriented in ways, but we got back to the restaurant. We found a restaurant in Bayfield and we asked for some water, and the waitress, she brought us these tiny little mason jars with water with no ice. We're like, that's fine, but we need water. Like we need a lot of water. We need to rehydrate ourselves. So we have a funny story to tell now because of that.
Well, and that's when you're doing any kind of analysis. What kind of water features do you have?
Right.
What kind of water is it? How can you treat it? Because there are certain ones that you can't treat. You just can't drink out of it unless you want to get yourself sick.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, that's kind of like, I mean, like ERP projects, they're complicated. And from the outside, it might seem really simple, but it's probably not. Like not being a hiker, again, I would look at, I'm going to go on this 3-night hike and I have to pack some food and I have to pack some fuel and I have to pack this, that, and the other thing. Before you know it, I'm way overloaded. I don't have enough water. I can't make my food. I don't have anything for... like first aid, or I have the wrong things for first aid, and I'm in some serious danger.
Or you didn't realize you're in bear country, and so you don't have a bear bag, so you can't put your food in the tree.
Yep.
On the island, there aren't bears, so you don't have to care about that. So the girls who normally that are going to go with me up on the island have never dealt with bear bags.
Okay.
However, when I hike the Ice Age Trail or some of these ones where I'll sleep more in the woods and less at a campground, you have to put it in a tree, and you have to be at least 100 feet away, minimum.
Or you're going to attract a bear to yourself.
Or they're going to be a lot closer than you want them to be, right? And
I've never slept in the outdoors close to a bear. In fact, I've never been, my closest animal that eats things was with a wolf, not a bear.
Fair enough. I started doing adventuring with my son when my husband went on a trip out to VMworld out in San Francisco. And so he was 7th grade, 6th grade, something like that. And I said, we're going to go do an adventure. With his autism, he was very skittish to try something new. And I wanted to show him you can try something new if you do the work, do the research, look at stuff. So we went down to Devil's Lake and we went and slept in a teepee and all of this kind of fun stuff, right? But with that, the whole concept of animals.
You mean wild animals out in the woods?
Total wild animals. Night one, the 2 teepees have families in. The only one that heard something that was not happy because it was...
being eaten?
Yes. I didn't want to say it like that.
Yeah, that's okay. That's what happens in the wild.
It does. The circle of life, right? So the 2 teepees and the teepee, and then there's the porta potty, right? So we had a porta potty there. It wakes me up, and bunnies squeal. Mm-hmm. When they're in distress, they squeal and they cry and they make a lot of noise. So I hear that, and I'm like, crud. And I could hear it between me and the porta potty. I'm like, I'm not getting up then. 20 minutes later, I hear it again. I'm like, I'm not getting back to sleep. That was year 1. Year 2, year 3, we went up to Grand Island in Lake Superior, and it is a bear-infested island. We were in a hammocks. I know that a tent isn't going to protect me from a bear. I don't think I slept for the 2 nights we were out on that because you heard everything in the woods, and there was bears all over that island.
You could hear them move?
Oh, you could hear everything in the woods, right? And then as a mom, I'm looking,
So did you adjust your future adventures from there because you wanted to sleep? Or you
No.
just, no, okay.
No.
You just got more brave.
We were willing
Or
to do
used
the
to
work. Bear spray is definitely something I could usually carry. But yeah, and my son really enjoyed learning and doing the adventures, and he loves our mother-son adventure trips we do every year, which is nice. Special memories. Yeah.
Good. So, we're I think we're about at time of what we want to record. Is that right, Jordan? Give or take? Yeah, we're close. What's next for Retta?
So, my husband's getting close to retirement. So I was telling Jordan what analyzing, and yes, I am analyzing. My husband at year 20 of marriage decides he wants to be a snowbird. I'm like, you haven't told me this for 20 years. I'm not prepared for any of this. What are you talking about?
I'm impressed. Being in the warm climate in the cold months, that sounds pretty nice to me.
I'm a January baby. I was married in January. I enjoy the winter. I do. This winter was a little disappointing for me.
Yeah, it was pretty warm. It was nice.
My birthday was a blizzard, so I didn't mind that. But that being said, figuring out where do we want a snowbird to. A lot of it will depend on where our son ends up, which is fine. But what locations, because I have no desire to go to certain locations due to certain types of weather. I do not do well with heat, and I don't care for dry.
Sure.
And I don't care for dirt.
So the Southwest is probably out because that's hot, dry, and dirty.
Which was his first pick.
Okay. Lisa and I are going down to the Tucson area to a place called Green Valley. I'm imagining it being a green valley. So I'll check it out. I'll let you know if it's not
Fair enough.
hot, dry, or dirty.
And then hurricanes in Florida. So I don't want to go Florida too much. Not sure that I want to go Gulf Shore area. We'll see.
Sure.
My husband being in the military, he was stationed down in the Carolinas. He loves that area. So that might be an option.
Yep. It's certainly more temperate. I don't know. I haven't been there. I've been down to Florida for sure, and up as far as Savannah, which then that's right on the border of the South Carolina.
My aunt lives outside of Alpharetta. My aunt Retta lives in Alpharetta.
Yep, Retta and Alpharetta.
Yep. And she is the first Retta of the family.
You're the second Retta?
I am. And the last. So I'm kind of like
we didn't talk about
Omega.
that. Maybe we have to save that for another podcast but we do know now that you're named after your Aunt Retta. It's not a common name.
Hers is Loretta. Mine is Retta.
And you're Retta.
Yep.
Was her nickname Retta?
Yes, because she thought Loretta was too old-fashioned. So that's why my mom just named me Retta when I was born on her birthday.
But Retta is a name. Like there's other people with the name Retta.
Not a lot of them. It's very few. Majority of them, it's a nickname of Marietta, Loretta, that kind of stuff. Or it's a French last name.
And I imagine that people mispronounce it all the time.
All the time.
How often are you Rita? Rita?
I was by my dentist today.
So as recent as today. How about that? Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming in and sitting down and talking with me today. I hope that the people listening get a chance to understand that, hey, life isn't a straight line.
No.
That business analyst skills can be applied all over the place, not just in IT.
Absolutely.
And life is a journey. So enjoy that journey and keep growing, keep learning, and try and apply the things that you learn at work. Try and apply those in your life. It makes it fun.
And just be open. Be open to what comes your way.
That's right. Awesome. Well, thank you, Retta. It was fun and enjoyable. And we're glad that you're able to join us today. Make sure to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for more exciting content. Reach out to us through our website. If there's an IT or other topic you'd like to hear, we're open to suggestions, that's for sure. Thank you for joining us for this conversation as you chart your course to your next destination. May your journey be filled with purpose and confidence, which I think Retta has a lot of confidence.
Depends on the day.
That's right. Until then, stay true to your compass.